Okay, welcome everybody to Eat More Beans, or How to Eat More Beans, I think is what I called it. So let me get this bright light out of the way. I'm Chef Julia Dunaway, and I'm a plant-based chef and whole food plant-based, no oil. And I make a lot of really good things, I think, that to try to get people to eat this way and enjoy it. That's my main concern is a lot of times people look at the whole food plant-based lifestyle and they think, if I have to eat this way for the rest of my life, I'm going to be miserable. They think I can't really enjoy eating this kind of food. It's just too hard. The food isn't that good. I can't stick with it. So if you've ever felt that way, I understand because I felt that way in the beginning. In fact, one of the first things I watched when I was not even thinking about doing this was back when I was following the Blue Zones kind of program. And, I was still eating oils and lots of rich food. And one time I watched one of these videos by Jeff Novick. And I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he does a lot of stuff. I think he was in the Forks Over Knives movie, and he was in a lot of stuff. And he does this video where he takes a lot of stuff and he calls it fast food. And he has all this canned food, and he has all these things that he throws together to make his food. And it's like canned tomatoes and canned beans and canned everything. And, I watched it and I thought, well, that looks really easy. Maybe I'll try to eat some of this food. So I went and got some of the stuff that he suggested and I tried to make something, but it was terrible. I have to tell you, it tasted very acidic, bland, and it was like, I'll never eat this way. I thought I could never eat this kind of food ever in my whole life. I see some comments. Hello from Blanco, Texas. Hello. So anyway, that was kind of one of the things I saw, and I thought, that food is awful. I can't eat that food. So then fast forward a few years, in 2018, I started really considering 2017, really, I started eating more Blue Zones. A participant and set the caption. Okay, that's fine. So I started following the Blue Zones plan, the Blue Zones way of eating. And I thought, okay, this is better. It has a lot more variety and I could eat this way. And so I started doing Blue Zones, cooking demonstrations. And the Blue Zones are the places in the world that have a lot of 100-year-old people, healthy people. And they do eat, they don't eat 100% plant-based. They do eat some meat, a little bit, and they eat lots of rice and beans and stuff. So I thought about, following that, and I did that 2017. But in 2018, I decided to eat plant-based, 100% whole food, plant-based, no oil. And that was hard. I wasn't very successful. I stuck with the plant-based most of the time. I'm pretty much 100% of the time plant-based, but I ate processed food and vegan food and vegan restaurant food and stuff like that. So I wasn't really the best at following the whole food plant-based way of life. But then in 2020, about the time of COVID, that's when I really switched over to whole food plant-based, no oil. It was May of 2020, about 4 years ago. And I just had this realization that my lab work wasn't very good. My cholesterol was high. My LDL was high. Everything was high. Triglycerides. My blood pressure was not that great. It wasn't even controlled great, taking blood pressure medicine. So, I thought, this isn't good. This is not getting any better. And it should be, because I was eating plant-based 2018, 2019, the beginning of 2020. So then I said, I'm going to really change things up and eat 100% whole food plant-based and no oil and really stick with it. And so the way I decided to do it was I picked Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen from How Not to Die. And so that's what I follow. That's what all my bean eating is about. In fact, I had the book right here. And I was looking at it, earlier today. Hey, if anybody's watching, make a comment in the chat so I know you're following me, that everything's okay, because I haven't seen anything lately. And I've got the chat pulled up so I can read it. So this was what I had read. Okay, we're good. All right, thank you. Everything's good. Thanks, everybody. So How Not to Die, I read this book and I had already had it. I read it. So I knew what was in it. And I thought, I'm just going to follow, the part about the daily dozen, the second half of the book. I read the whole book and read about everything, but in the second half of the book, he talks about the daily dozen. And there's my little cheat sheet that I printed a million of in the beginning. I had all these little cheat sheets and I'd have them out in the morning. So, I said, I could do this. I'll just follow this and I'll eat, beans, berries, fruits, cruciferous vegetables, greens, blah, 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 the daily dozen. There's an app. If you aren't sure, I see a bunch of people now. Pam is on. Hey, Pam. Somebody uses that. Pam Vilnovsky is the one who's always asking me about all these beans and started this whole thing because she was saying, do you still subscribe to the bean club? And we were talking about using up beans. And I said, I need to do some kind of Zoom class on beans so that, I get people to use their beans. I see hi from Milwaukee. Hello from St. Louis. Okay, I'm glad you guys are watching. Anyway, that's how it all got started. Pam Vilnovsky, who's a client of mine and a friend and somebody that has taken probably every class I've ever taught. I've taught a zillion classes now, but that's how this whole thing got started. And I also wanted to do something on Zoom, excuse me, something free from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hey, hello. So I can't keep up with all the people that are chatting now. I will never get this done, but I do appreciate everybody who's joining in. And I am recording this, so you can watch it at your convenience. And those of you who can't watch it today, Kathy said she met me at the NHA conference. Great. I met a lot of really nice people there. So that's how this whole bean thing got started, is from the Daily Dozen. And so then you're supposed to eat 3 servings of beans a day, half-cup servings. So how hard is it to eat a half-cup of serving of beans? It's hard. Believe me, I've been doing this for 4 years, and you would think that it's not that hard. Hi from San Francisco Bay Area. I'm in the Bean Club. Yeah, I used to live in Seaside, California, near Monterey. So I missed that part of the country. But the Rancho Gordo Bean Club, I'll talk about that in a minute. So let's talk about the bean issue. You're supposed to eat 3 half-cup servings of beans a day. And that's a lot of beans. Believe me, it doesn't sound like a lot, but to me, that's a lot of beans, because some days I don't eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I only eat brunch, late, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's 2 meals. And one of those meals, I might eat oatmeal. So it's like, well, I don't really eat beans for breakfast. I usually don't. I guess I could. Sometimes I do, but not usually. And then, dinner, do I want to eat a whole cup of beans for dinner? No, because I like to eat a lot of other stuff, vegetables, salads, a lot of other foods. So it can be really hard to get all these beans in. So what do you do? And so, first of all, you have to learn to love beans. And I wanted to cook some beans for you while I'm talking about beans, because I can cook and talk at the same time. Trust me, I can. I've done so many classes on beans that I can cook and do anything pretty much. So I've got my pot here. I've got one of these really nice Le Creuset pots, and they make really good beans. I've got my trusty chef's knife. This is my Miyabi chef's knife. Everything I have is in my Amazon store. So anything you see me using, you can go to the Chef Julia Dunaway Amazon store and you can find it, except for maybe Rancho Gordo stuff. So, well, let me get started on making these beans, and then I'll keep talking about beans. If you're going to be eating all these beans, you have to start to love beans. And I'm telling you, you're not going to love beans from the grocery store bean aisle, the dried beans that have been sitting on the grocery store shelf for who knows how many years. You know what I'm talking about? I used to buy those beans and I would cook them, and they would never cook. They'd be there forever before they would soften, and sometimes they never did. So, I kind of gave up on grocery store beans and just thought they were gross. So, what about Rancho Gordo beans? Everybody's talking about that. Well, they're kind of a bean above the regular bean. And today I'm making Mayocoba beans. I saved the package to show you. It's a white bean. And you know, these Rancho Gordo beans, I don't need this bar stool here. You can buy, anybody can buy Rancho Gordo beans on their website. And I noticed there's a lot of them in grocery stores now. So Central Market, which is a Texas grocery store, has a bunch of different ones. Now they don't have the unusual ones, but they have everyday Rancho Gordo beans, like pinto beans, black beans, red beans. But if you belong to the Bean Club, then, and this is these containers are in my Amazon store. These are bio kips, BIOKIPS. They lock really tight. And so I keep all my beans in here. But for example, this month they sent Borlotti lemon beans, which I cooked. I had another package of those. They sent a black bean, some kind of gourmet black bean. They sent Good Mother Stallard beans, which are really good. They're very rich, dark bean, and some garbanzo beans, yellow eye beans, and baby green lima beans. Now, I'm not a big lima bean fan, so I don't know about those. So these are my most current beans, but I'm not using those. I have the date on my container of May 2024, and I think these are dated now. They've put a best by date on them. But I also have a couple of boxes dated on the top of beans that I haven't used. Look at this. I've got this box and another box. So I was telling Pam, like, oh my gosh, I'm getting stockpiled on beans. So I sent a friend about 5 bags of beans yesterday. It's like, oh, here's a gift for you. But really, I'm thinking, I've got to get rid of some of these beans. And then I sent my daughter her birthday present this morning, and I sent her a bag of beans. Like, here, cook some beans. So I'm going to start giving some of these beans away because, you know, you can only use so many beans, right? But even so, find some beans that you really like. And Rancho Gordo beans are really good. Let's see, there's a question. I gave Rancho Gordo beans for Christmas last year. Yeah. You know, I don't see anything wrong with that, but they really are good. They're worth it. So then it comes down to, well, who's got time to make beans? Because I'm going to show you how to make their recipe for beans. First of all, they tell you to take some onions, carrots, and celery, kind of the mirepoix of culinary school is what we call mirepoix, but it's, you know, carrots, onions, and celery. And I'm going to take probably, yeah, I'll just use all this onion. This is an onion I already had, so that's why I didn't peel it or anything. It was already from making my beans the other day. So I already had this sweet yellow onion. In Texas, we get a lot of these sweet yellow onions, and I love the way they taste, so I use those. And then what I don't use, you know, my scraps. I have a compost pile in my backyard, so I collect all my compost. And I created some really good compost for my vegetable garden last year for the first time ever. Someone said, are you part of Plant Powered St. Louis? Oh, no, that's somebody else. Never mind. Okay, so I'm going to put my onions in here, and my heat should have been a little bit higher than that. Didn't have it turned. It should sizzle when you put it in there. I'm not using celery today because I don't have any. I was going to go to the store, and when I was out meeting a friend for lunch, it started pouring down rain, and I didn't want to go to the store in the pouring rain, so I just said, forget it. We'll just have garlic, carrots, and onions. And it's true, you could use anything you want. You don't have to use celery. Maybe you don't like celery. So I'm just going to use carrots, garlic, and onions. But you want to have something in the pot to flavor your beans. It just makes it better to have some kind of vegetables, because remember, we don't use oil in, you know, this way of cooking in the plant-based, whole food plant-based world. So we're not using oil to create flavor, which is what, you know, the Rancho Gordo people, when they do a cooking demo on making their beans, oh my gosh, they pour in, you know, oil like glug, 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 glug. It you know, drives me crazy to see how much oil they serve. It's a lot. So I'm going to put my carrots and onions in here. No water, nothing, just in a dry pan. If your pan is hot and you put in your vegetables, they'll start cooking. I don't have another camera to show you, but they're cooking. They're cooking just fine. And you don't need to add any water right now. Now, I do have some water sitting here that I can add if I need to, but I don't automatically add water. Now, I know a lot of people in the plant-based world will say, saute in water, and they'll put water in the pan to begin with. But I never do that because the vegetables have their own water. And the surface area of your vegetables as they brown creates a really good flavor. It's like a caramelization. And so that caramelization, the sugars and the water and the vegetables creates flavor. So you don't want to kill that by throwing water in too soon. Throw in the water after you've given your vegetables a chance to create some flavor. And then we have some garlic. I usually use like a couple of cloves, but if you're a big garlic lover, you might use more. I picked some garlic today from the garden, and it was great. It was so plump and it was well formed. It's in my garage because it's very dirty. It has to, when you pick your garlic, you have to let it dry, and then you can brush the dirt off of it. And then once you brush the dirt off of it, you can use it while it's young, or you can let it dry out and store it. So this year I'm going to let it dry out and store it, but I might also pickle some of it. I saw a really good recipe for pickling garlic, so I thought I might do that. We'll see. Okay, so I've got my garlic cloves. They don't have to be minced or anything because they're going to cook down. So I just kind of rough chop those. All right, so that's it. You're supposed to do this and brown your mirepoix vegetables before you add your beans. But let's say that you're in a hurry and you don't want to mess with this. Like, you don't care. You're just like, oh, I just want to get these beans on the stove. I have been known to just put the beans in the water in the pot and add the onion, garlic, and carrots and not brown it. Okay. I've done that many times. But this is the ideal way because it develops better flavor. And you just let it cook for a few minutes. And in the meantime, let's talk about the beans. So the beans that I chose to use today are Mayocoba beans, and they're a white bean, and they're really pretty beans. I think you can kind of see them. They're very plump white beans, and they're really creamy and delicious. And what I've done, I've been soaking these beans since noon. So that's about 6 hours. And Rancho Gordo, they'll tell you in their bean instructions that you don't have to soak the beans at all. They'll say, you can soak them if you want to. You don't have to soak them. We just put them in the pot and let them cook for however many hours. Well, for me, I found that if I'm cooking them in the pot, they taste better, or they cook better faster if they've been soaked. So I soak them for 5 to 6 hours, which is what they'll tell you in their instructions. And then I drain the bean water. Now, some people will say, oh, use the bean water. Well, I found that it's better to drain it. So I drain the bean water. And while I've done that, I don't see now it's starting to brown, and I can smell it. Like I know that flavor's been developed. So now I'm going to put in a couple tablespoons of water so that it doesn't burn. Because once it gets to that point where it starts to brown, you don't want it to brown to the point where it burns your food. Then I'm going to add my beans because we've got the flavor coming out of the onions and the carrots and the garlic that fast. That's all it took. And then we just add water. So I collected some filtered water because I like filtered water. Sometimes water imparts a taste that is not necessarily the taste you want. So if your water has any weird taste, put some filtered water in there. This is from the fridge, my refrigerator. And I'm just covering these beans by about an inch. Okay, don't drown your beans. That's another thing that people do. Let me get a pot holder. Something that people do is they put too much water in. So I have about an inch of water covering the beans. Can't really see. I'm sorry about my camera. I have this whole setup. I have to tell you, I have new equipment. Let's see, someone said, I just learned about you from working through the Vegan Health Bundle. I am touched by your family story. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Well, yeah, I just got back from Spain and Portugal where I walked the Camino, which was 150 miles in 13 days, and it was hard, but I did it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this up really high so it will start boiling. In fact, I'm going to move it to the next burner because the next burner is hotter, bigger. I should have put it on that burner to begin with because I want this to come to a boil. So anyway, I have this new equipment, and the one thing I did that was new was I got I had someone come and wire my computer to the internet so it's not on Wi-Fi, so that it's not cutting out. You see, I have a very stable picture, but my camera is a Wi-Fi camera and doesn't work when the computer's connected to the internet. So I have to get a new camera. But anyway, I just figured this out today. So that's why it's a little, I've got using my computer camera and it's not that good. So bear with me. I guess it's stable, so that's a good thing. All right, so what we have to do is the Rancho Gordo way, and let me put this up here so you can see what I'm cooking, is to bring the beans to a boil and let them boil for 10 or 15 minutes, like a hard boil, and they talk about that. So if you're interested, I have done a couple of basic bean videos on YouTube, so you can find those. They're easy to find, and they're kind of boring, and they're kind of long. So kind of wish that I could do them over again and make them more interesting, because in the beginning when I was doing all these YouTube videos, I just made them too long and boring. I think they're boring. So anyway, I'm going to put the lid on to make it boil faster. So we don't have to watch the water boil. So anyway, Tammy, one of my boxers came in. Come here, honey. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? Here, let's pick you up. This is Cammy. She's a female. She's about 2. Maybe the puppy will come in later, Toshi. So this is cooking beans on the stove top is great. If you're like me and you work from home and you know you're a person who likes to cook and slow food and all that. I mean, most of you know I'm going to be 70 in a few days, and I worked outside the home. I have 4 children. I was full-time employed for all my adult life. I was not home during the day. And so I know what it's like not to have time to cook. So I don't expect all of you to have a collection of Rancho Gordo beans and cook them on the stove top. That's asking a lot. So let's say that you want to cook them in the Instant Pot. So the Instant Pot, at first, Rancho Gordo told people not to cook their beans in the Instant Pot because they were kind of snobby about it. And they said, oh, cook them on the stove top, only cook them on the stove top. But now they've kind of changed their tune, and they came out with a new cookbook. I think it was last year, called Rancho Gordo Vegetarian Cooking Volume 2. Make sure it's Volume 2 because they have Volume 1. And they have a whole table in this book on pressure cooking, Instant Pot. And they tell you step by step how to cook all Rancho Gordo beans in the Instant Pot. Well, this is great because they used to never tell you. They used to just tell you not to do it. So following their instructions, you can take any of their Rancho Gordo beans, pinto beans, black beans, King City pink beans, Marcella beans, or any bean. They've got a lot of them listed, not everyone, but most of them. And it tells you exactly how long to cook them under pressure and how long to release them under natural pressure release. And it works great. So if you're a person who doesn't have time for this, you're like I used to be, running around all the time, come home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, kids have to go to, practices or meetings, and you're just rushing around. Well, use your Instant Pot, throw some stuff in it, let it go, and then leave. And then your beans will be done when you get back. So consider doing the Instant Pot thing if you don't want to mess with the stovetop. But I like to show everybody the stovetop version because that's when they taste the best. Okay. If you want really good tasting beans, cook them on the stove and you'll be rewarded with the most delicious beans. But, set aside a few hours, like You have to soak them for 5 or 6 hours. Then you're going to, you know, cook the vegetables, bring them to a boil. They haven't come to a boil yet. And then you're going to boil them for 10 minutes. And then the part that Rancho Gordo also doesn't really tell you about completely is once they're cooking at a low heat, how long are they going to take? And they'll always say that they're done when they're done. They will never really tell you when they're done, because to Rancho Gordo, they could be done anytime. And some beans take an hour and a half, some beans take 4 hours. You just don't know. And it also depends on how old the beans are. You know, I guess the maybe the altitude, I don't know, but a lot of it is the age of the beans, the type of beans, and you just never know. And then soaking them or not soaking them. So it's not an exact science, the bean thing. So, you know, they'll never tell you the exact amount of time the beans take. So that's why you have to have plenty of time. But the Instant Pot is a lot more accurate. It'll tell you 50 minutes and then natural pressure release. So you're kind of pretty sure about that. So there you go with the Instant Pot, stove top, which tastes the best. And then last but not least about beans, well, maybe not last, but you know, we have canned beans. So should you use canned beans? And I have this brand that I've always used. It's called Made, M-A-D-E with, and they sell them at the local grocery store. And they have, you know, black kidney and Great Northern beans. They have a lot of different ones, and I like them because they're low in sodium. They do have a little bit of sodium, but not very much. And they taste really good. Not all canned beans taste good. You know, trust me, I've tasted canned beans that were awful, all mushy and over salted, or mushy and undersalted, or just bad. Let's see, no new comments. So let's use canned beans and make something while we're messing with this, and then we'll talk some more about other bean recipes. So canned beans, one thing we can do is make hummus. So hummus should be a staple for everybody who's eating this way, just because we're trying to get in all these beans. The talk is how to eat more beans. And when we're trying to get in more beans, there's something in my food processor. I don't know what that was. Pureed beans are a good way to get beans into your diet. So hummus is really easy to make, and hummus is transportable. You can take it with you. You can dip Mary's Gone crackers in it, cucumbers, carrots, celery, radishes, any kind of vegetables in it. So making hummus and bean dip, which hummus is bean dip, okay? So think about this. Take any beans, and we're going to use our garbanzo beans because we're going to make a version of hummus. And we're going to save the liquid because we're going to use it. The liquid for garbanzo beans is aquafaba. And it could be used for lots of things, like I use it in making plant-based mayo. And I'm not going to rinse these beans off because they don't need it. They taste perfectly good without being rinsed off. So you don't have to automatically always rinse beans off. I think people did that because of salt. You guys, quit making so much noise. Quit making so much noise. Well, that worked. Oh, okay. So now the beans they're coming to a boil. Can't really see it, but maybe I can angle it a little bit. So they're boiling. Well, the fire is also very high. All right, we just have to take my word for it. They are boiling pretty hard. And we're gonna let this go for like 10 minutes. So you could see the steam rising out. This is my spoon from Rancho Gordo. It's my bean spoon. I like it. It's kind of cool. So we're gonna let this go for like 10 minutes. So I'll keep an eye on my watch here. So we want to let it boil hard for 10 minutes. That's their advice, and it works good. In the meantime, let's make our dip. And these chickpeas taste good by themselves, I think. I don't have a recipe out or anything because I make this kind of stuff so often. So what do we put in our hummus? Well, the typical hummus always has lemon. It has some kind of tahini. You can use different kinds. I have Soom tahini that's on my Amazon store. I use that a lot. And then I have this one's already open, so we'll use this one. It's a Roots Classic tahini. Salt. And if you're salt-free, you don't have to use salt, but I use salt a little bit. And then garlic. And I'll probably put 2 garlic cloves in here. Now, I told you I have fresh garlic from my garden, and that's going to be really good. Did you get these beans yeah, Central Market is the same company as HEB. So yes, I got these beans at Central Market. And so in Texas, we have HEB, and that's where you can get these kind of beans. So yeah, they definitely have them there. So I got to get my cutting board here so I can cut this garlic a little bit. So another thing that I've been known to do is to use roasted garlic. So you can also use roasted garlic. And you don't need oil to roast your garlic. All you have to do is stick it in some foil or parchment paper if you don't like to cook in foil. And then you just stick it in the oven for like, 50 minutes at 400 degrees in your foil or parchment paper. And there you go. You've got roasted garlic. Okay. I've got my 2 garlic cloves. And then I'm going to put in my lemon juice. This is a huge lemon. It's a huge seedless lemon. I think I'm going to put it in a bowl because it's seedless, but maybe it'll have a seed in it, but probably not. It smells, oh, it had a seed in it. So there you go. That's why I never trust things that say they're seedless because they don't always follow through with that. Okay, so get all the lemon juice you can. If you like it super lemony, that's great. I like it lemony too. So, but then it's got a seed in it. So I'm going to use my built-in strainer. I should have washed my hands after I petted the dog. Well, I guess I'll be the only person eating this hummus, so don't report me to the food safety people. That's how it is at home sometimes. Okay, so it's still boiling. I have another 5 minutes. Tahini. So a lot of people, hey, quit, guys, quit. A lot of people are kind of opposed to tahini because it's a high fat food. It has 17 grams of fat for 2 tablespoons. But I like tahini, and I'm going to use like, that's 1 tablespoon. I'm going to use 4 tablespoons of tahini. That's like a 1/4 of a cup. A lot of recipes call for a lot more than that. So 1/4 of a cup is not very much. And then, salt or no salt. Yeah, I'm going to put a little salt in there. Let's see. No other. I want a bean spoon. Oh, order your bean spoon from Rancho Gordo. I'm going to put in a teaspoon of salt. This is Diamond Crystal Kosher salt, which has less sodium than Morton salt. So that's what chefs use all the time. So there you go. I've got my chickpeas, lemon, a little hummus, garlic, and salt. That's it. And I don't have any other liquid in there. I have my reserved aquafaba. I'll put just a couple tablespoons in there, and I'm going to process it. So you can do this with any bean. Remember, bean dip is nothing more than pureed beans with a liquid. So you can take water, vegetable broth, soup, whatever you have that like a liquid, some kind of broth, and mix it with your beans. And then I have where did I put it? And then about, halfway through, check it. Like, I'm checking it to see if it's the right texture. Like right now, it's pretty smooth that fast. It got smooth really fast. Does it need any more liquid? No, I don't want it to be watery. I want it to be smooth. I don't want it to be too thick, but I don't want it to be like water. So I'm going to pulse it just slightly more. And that's it. Okay, how fast was that? We just made hummus that you can make it with 2 cans of beans if you wanted more, that we can use to have for our bean serving. 1/4 of a cup of hummus is a bean serving. So you don't even need a lot of hummus for your bean serving, just 1/4 of a cup. And this is better than hummus that you buy at the store because it's really hard to find oil-free hummus. There are a couple of brands. Kava makes a hummus that is only has tahini and no oil. And Cedars makes an oil-free hummus. It's awful. I bought some recently to test it. It tasted terrible. I don't know how to describe it, but it had a very odd taste to it. So, I don't want to eat that. I don't want to eat something that doesn't taste good, because I'm telling you, that will be the end of you following a plant-based diet. If you buy products at the store and you go to eat them and they taste terrible, you'll be like, yeah, this plant-based diet is for the birds and the food doesn't taste good. So you want your food to taste really good. You don't want it to be something that you have to force yourself to eat and it's not very good. So, I'm all for making your own thing. So here's my beautiful hummus that you saw how fast it was to make. It has a little bit of tahini, lemon, garlic, salt, and then we can put freshly ground pepper in here. And so just by making this, and let's say that you don't have garbanzo beans, and let's say you had kidney beans or pinto beans or black beans, you could make the same thing. You could put lemon juice and water and beans in your food processor and make a bean puree. And then you could season it up. Like I have some Spanish paprika from my trip that I haven't used, that I've wanted to use, and I may not be able to open. Yeah, here it is. It's spicy Spanish paprika. I'm just going to put that in here because I want to. So you can, and it's a beautiful can. It's like I carried this all the way back from Spain. So I'm going to put this in my hummus because I want to have Spanish paprika in my hummus. But you can put, I put quite a bit in it. It kind of looks, it looks like it's in there. So let's taste it. Wow, that spicy paprika made it taste really good. The garlic, I can taste the lemon, the garlic. This is so good, you guys. So that's our hummus. Now, I can taste that garlic. All right, it's been 10 minutes. So now what we can do is we'll turn this down to low and we'll put the lid on. But Rancho Gordo always says to leave a little bit of an opening on your lid. So don't completely shut the lid down. Okay, so leave a little opening. And this is where, hey guys, come on. This is where our time starts. That's the girl. So it's 6:41. I boiled my beans for 10 minutes, put the lid on. Now, how long do Mayocoba beans take? These are the quicker ones. So I think they're going to be ready within about an hour to an hour and a half. So before I go to bed tonight, hopefully these beans will be ready. And I think they will be. And that's what you do. You check them from time to time. You stir them around. And, right now they just look, they don't look like anything. They look kind of like they did when we started. They're plump because they were soaked. And they look pretty good. They're going to cook in their own time, and I'm not going to worry about rushing them. See if there's a question. How much heat do you use for this portion? I use miso in place of salt. Okay, yeah, miso works in place of salt. How much heat do you use for this portion? I don't understand your question. about how much heat you use for this portion. So ask me again. And, and then let me also talk about the hummus again. So what can you do with hummus? And remember, we're trying to eat our 3 servings of beans a day. I'm sorry about this light. This is terrible. It's this time of day. What you can do with hummus is you can eat it with vegetables and Mary's Gone crackers, oil-free crackers, or celery, or anything like that. But you can also make hummus toast. So, you know, if you have Dave's bread or Ezekiel bread or one of the good breads, toast your bread and spread it with hummus, and then put some chopped up onions and peppers and different things on top of your hummus and cilantro or whatever you like, and you'll have a delicious meal, breakfast, or even lunch. I usually only eat 1 piece of bread for a meal. I don't usually eat 2 pieces of bread, just because I'm not a big bread eater. That was one of the things that kept me from losing weight, was eating too much bread. But if you eat sandwiches, hummus is a great sandwich spread. So this delicious paprika scented hummus, somebody needs to mute themselves. Let's see, Jeffrey Thompson, please put yourself on mute because I can hear you. Let me see if I can find him. Here, I muted him. Okay, so you can make a really good sandwich with hummus. You just take hummus, lettuce, and tomato, onions, cucumbers, greens, avocados, and that's a really good way to get a bean serving. And make yourself a hummus sandwich. And then you can also use a similar kind of chickpea spread and make the chickpea tuna stuff. So the only difference with that is instead of tahini, I would use some homemade plant-based mayo. And I make homemade plant-based mayo all the time. In fact, I have a YouTube video of spicy chickpea tuna, spicy chickpea spread, I think I call it. And I make the cashew mayo. So just like soaked cashews with lemon juice, or you can use white beans or something to make like a white mayonnaise spread. And then you add that to the chickpeas and add some chopped up pickles and onions and herbs and whatever you like, spices. And there you have it. There you have like a chickpea sandwich spread or a hummus spread, or a hummus that could be used for the topping for a baked potato. So another thing you can do with hummus is put it on a baked potato. That may sound a little strange, but it's actually very good. You can bake a sweet potato or a white potato, open it up and put a scoop of your 1/4 of a cup of hummus on it. And then you have a bean serving and a potato, and then make some salad or vegetables. So if you're in a hurry and you have to have a quick meal, you can make a microwave baked potato. Not always the best way, but you know, if you have to, you have to. And then process a can of beans. Here, guys. Hey. Process a can of any beans. It doesn't have to be garbanzo beans. Remember, any bean plus some citrus fruit, plus some flavoring of spices, a little garlic, something. Here's the other dog. And I'll wash my hands after I touch him. This is the puppy. This is Toshi. He's 6 months old. He's my baby. I love him to death. And those of you who know me know my dog Jiro, the big boy dog. I'm going to wash my hands this time. While I was in Spain, he got sick and he died of an immune system disorder. It was some kind of rare thing where he got his immune system started fighting itself and he bled to death, basically. I don't want to talk about it. I'll start crying. But so I have 2 boxers now. I used to have 3. And it's really been kind of sad around here, missing my babies. Okay, let's see. What burner heat did you put it on during the 10 minutes? Oh, it was on high. So I have a gas flame here, and for the 10 minutes it was on really high. It was boiling really hard. Okay, so in this short period of time, we made our Rancho Gordo beans. Hold on for a second. Hey, get out. You're making too much noise. Go. Yeah. I'm I'm used to the sound of the dogs, but I'm sure not everybody's used to all this noise. So I've got them out of here. Let's see. Um, just so you know, the microphone doesn't, don't worry, we can't hear the dogs, okay? Doesn't pick up any dog sounds. Okay, good. All right, I'm glad to hear that. But I got them out of here because they were distracting me. All right, so um, those are just the two things I was going to demo tonight. But I just wanted to let you know that the idea of how to eat more beans is one, find some beans that you really love, like the Rancho Gordo beans. You can buy them in the store and organize them. You know, like I showed you, I've got my whole little system of keeping them in the pantry so they're dated and I know where to get them. And sometimes at the grocery store, the Central Market grocery store in Texas, let's stand over here, I'll buy pinto beans or black beans because I don't get those from Rancho Gordo all the time. So if I'm craving Rancho Gordo pinto beans, I'll just go to the store and buy a bag and cook them because I think they're delicious. Did you lower the heat once they? Yes, I did lower the heat, Cheryl. It is lowered. It's like at a bubble. You can just barely, it's just kind of bubbling. I don't have my camera that I can't show you, but you can just tell it's just at a very low simmer. You can see the bubbles, but not too many. Oh, and the other thing too is, so while your beans are cooking, you need to keep an eye on them because right now they're not covered by too much water. They're covered by about a half an inch of water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water in this pot here and I'm going to heat it up on my stove. I'm going to put quite a bit in here because you don't want to add cold water to your cooking beans. So I'm going to get that water heated up. And you don't want to add, see, I've got it right over here on the stove. You don't want to add cold water to your beans because what will happen is the cold water will slow down the cooking and it will kind of, make you backtrack. And you don't want to do that because it's already going to take long enough. So don't put cold water in. Heat up a pot of water. And if you need to add water, add a little bit at a time. Don't add a whole lot because then you dilute the flavor of your beans because you want your beans to develop a really good tasting broth. So if you dilute the broth, then you end up, they don't taste as good. And you have to watch your beans because a friend of mine that I sent beans to recently, she burnt the beans. She said, I guess she took a nap or something and the beans were cooking and, she woke up and they were burnt. So they will burn if the water runs dry. So you have to, that's why it's a commitment, a time commitment when you make beans on the stovetop. You have to keep an eye on them. You have to add water, stir them up, check them for doneness. And, it's a process. It's not fast food. In our society today, most of us are rushing around, going from one thing to the next. And slow food, bean cooking, those are all things that's like, from our grandparents' time, I guess. I'm old, so I remember that kind of stuff. Like, my grandmother came to visit and she made a big pot of Southern style pinto beans. And she cooked them, she soaked them for a day overnight, and then she cooked them with fat back. That was what she cooked everything with. She was from North Carolina. So she cooked them with fat back, lots of salt, and cooked them for hours and hours. And then we ate them with cornbread and greens. They were really good, I thought at the time, but that was something your grandma did, was cook beans all the time. Let's see, any tips when you reheat beans from the fridge? Okay, I'm gonna go get some beans in a minute and I'll talk about that, but let me finish talking about these beans and then we'll go on to that. So besides beans, and in Dr. Greger's book, he talks about, what is he talking about for beans from How Not to Die? What he says is beans include beans canned or prepared from dry, black beans, black-eyed peas, butter beans, cannellini beans, chickpeas, edamame. English peas are considered a bean. Great Northern beans, kidney beans, lentils, miso is in the beans. is from a bean. Navy beans, pinto beans, small red beans, split peas, tempeh, and tofu. So remember, lentils are also the bean group. And I love to make lentils. So these are brown Puglia lentils, and I think you can order these on Rancho Gordo. They are the best brown lentils. If you make a pot of these and eat them with some brown rice and some chopped up vegetables, they're absolutely delicious. They have a French green lentil, and those are good. I like those. Not as much as these Puglia, Puglia. Those are the best. And then this is not a bean, but Rancho Gordo has the best crimson popcorn. If you can get any, there a lot of times they're sold out, but they have the best popcorn. And all you do is you put 1/4 of a cup of it in a silicone microwave popcorn popper, no oil, nothing, and put it on the popcorn setting, and you have delicious popcorn. Then red lentils. Look how I've used almost all my red lentils because I make red lentil soup a lot. So, you know, red lentils are good. These are not Rancho Gordo. These are just from the grocery store. And the other thing that I've been making a lot of I've been making mung bean omelets. So these are actual mung beans from the bean family. And you know, they look like lentils, but when you soak them and blend them with some plant milk, you can make an omelet. And the omelet tastes, my omelet, in fact, on YouTube, my mung bean egg recipe has, I think it has 50,000 views. It's the most viewed YouTube video I've ever done. So, you know, if you want to know how to make mung bean eggs, go to my YouTube channel and watch that video. It's like the most popular video. How should dry beans and lentils be stored? Okay, I store everything. I covered it a little bit. I store them all in these like airtight containers. So, you know, you put them in here and these things are very tight, like they lock. So it's very, you know, tightly fitted container in the pantry. Could I keep dried Gordo beans for a year? Oh yeah. The date, like, okay, the date for the ones that they just shipped, they put a best by date on there now, I heard. Let me see if I can find it. Well, I don't see the best by date. I thought they were putting that on there. Well, I don't see the date. I heard they were going to start putting a date on there, though. Here's one. Best by April 2026. So these are ones I got now. So that's 2 years. So I say 2 years is their best by date. This one, not all of them have that, but that one did have it. This one doesn't have a date. But that tells me that 2 years, and I remember reading that somewhere too, that they keep for 2 years or longer. I mean, they found, I think the Anasazi beans they found in some ancient Native American place that had been around for centuries. So, you know, beans will last a long time. Okay, they're cooking away. They look really good. They're starting to plump up a little bit. And the water, oh, they're smelling really good. Okay, so yeah, store your beans in the pantry. But if you live somewhere and your pantry is really hot, you know, maybe find a cooler place in your house instead of the pantry. Within 3 months, 2 bags purchased from Rancho Gordo hatched and had large bugs. Ew. Would these sealed containers prevent this? I don't know. That's never happened to me. I'm going to mute this person here. That's never happened to me. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you. I think you could contact Rancho Gordo and tell them what happened. Maybe they would replace those beans. So, you know, remember, vegetables, dried beans, they're all from nature. So you don't know if they were infested in the field they grew in, and for some odd reason that happened. In all the years, in 4 years of eating these beans all the time, I have not had any bugs in my beans. So I think if it happens, it's kind of a rare situation. Now I'm going to go get some beans from my freezer to show you how I reheat beans. And then also another use of beans, I don't know if all of you saw this, but I made some bean brownies with black beans, canned black beans. And I set them out just like this. And my husband came by and he said, "Oh, you made brownies." And he ate one, and I didn't say one word. I didn't say, "Yeah, they're made with beans," because he would have said he's not a bean lover. He's just not plant-based like me. This tastes great 2 days later. He said, "They're delicious. How many can I have?" Kind of like he wanted a lot of them. I said, "I'm saving them for my video." So I didn't let him have too many. But they're good. And I didn't, in my recipe, which I posted on my Facebook page, I say to use PB2, defatted peanut butter powder, because it doesn't have as much fat, and I'm trying to, have less fat in my diet. So, and it turned out really good. That PB2 I got great big. I didn't mean to get a giant jar of it, but I have a giant jar of it. So, try the black bean brownies, because that's another way to get some beans in, and they're sweetened with dates only, no other sugars, just dates. And they're very satisfying, especially if you stop eating processed food and junk food and processed sugar. Things that are date sweetened start tasting a lot better. So my water is nice and hot, so I turned it off because I don't want to have a bunch of boiling water in here while I'm, trying to stay cool. Okay, I'm going to get my beans. I'll be back in 1 second. Great. Yeah. Okay, here we go. My AirPods. I left the room and the AirPods were disconnected. So is the sound back? Okay, all right. So yeah, don't tell people what's in stuff sometimes. Like, it's sometimes better to just give people stuff, unless it's an allergy thing. But if I start telling my husband everything that's in the food, he would be turned off because he doesn't eat plant-based everything. Okay, so first of all, other ways to get your beans in. Costco sells organic edamame in these little individual servings, and you put them in the microwave for a couple of minutes, or you can cook them on the stove for 3 minutes in boiling water if you don't want to use a microwave. And this is a lot. Like they say, one bag is a serving. It's a huge amount. Like, to me, that's like 2 servings because it's a lot. But if you're in a hurry, yeah, just somebody said just a few days. They don't have much space in the freezer. The larvae will be dead, frozen. I want to put them in the freezer. Okay. So don't discount frozen edamame. Also, another thing is you can get edamame in the shell. So I use these a lot. They're just shelled edamame. So it looks like this. Sorry, like this. And, this is also a bean. A half a cup of these you can put on a salad or a rice bowl, like brown rice with edamame. And the way I heat these up is I take the half a cup and put it in a bowl like this, a small bowl, and cover it with boiling water for 5 minutes. And what that does is that heats them up, but it doesn't get them all mushy. It doesn't cook them really. It just kind of warms them through, and then they taste really good. So that's how I heat up my edamame. And then also, um, you can freeze your beans. So someone said, how do you reheat beans? Well, first of all, let's talk about the progression of using the beans. They're coming along so well. First of all, when you make a pot of beans in the Instant Pot or on the stove, day one, the best thing to do is eat the beans plain, like just a pot of beans, because especially if you're making Rancho Gordo beans, they make their own pot liquor and it tastes really good. And you can season it with spices if you want. I usually just keep it really simple because I like the flavor of the beans. So night one, I'll have a bowl of beans with some grains, brown rice, quinoa, farro, some kind of grain, and maybe a side of cornbread, homemade cornbread. There's a recipe for cornbread on my YouTube channel in the black-eyed pea recipe. And then what I like to garnish my beans with on day one is I like to take some diced up onions, maybe some peppers like this. I just picked this from the garden. It's a Fresno chili or a jalapeno, cilantro, avocado. And if you don't have a lot of fresh stuff around, always have some good sauces. Like I love these yellow bird sauces. They don't have any preservatives or weird stuff. They're all organic and they make sriracha, serrano, jalapeno, habanero. All their sauces are delicious and they're really super healthy compared to some of the other brands that have been out there. And then if you look at my food, a lot of times you'll see peppers on there. So if I don't have fresh peppers, I love pickled jalapenos with beans. So consider garnishing your beans with a lot of stuff. And sometimes I'll put frozen corn on with my beans because I think it tastes good. And I use the frozen corn the same way as I did the edamame. I just put boiling water for 5 minutes and then, it's perfect. And then drain it and then you have cooked corn. It's not hot, but it's heated through enough that it doesn't taste cold. So I make a plate. I call it like a summer beans and grain plate in the summertime, where I've got the beans and the grains and vegetables from the garden or, vegetables from the grocery store, some fresh herbs and some pickled jalapenos and sauces. And that's how I eat it day one. Okay. Day two, then you can make a recipe with your beans. And so how do you reheat your beans? Well, if you've got Rancho Gordo beans, they're in a good sauce. So what I usually do is I take a small saucepan, like the one that has the water in it, and I add some liquid because as the beans cool, they kind of thicken. And if you just try to heat them up with that thick liquid, they're kind of gross, I think. I don't think they're all that great. So then add water to them and that will thin it out and then heat it up and it will develop a nice sauce. And so on day two, you can reheat the beans from the fridge and do the same thing again, just eat them with garnishes and grains and different things. But, on day two, you can also make a recipe. So that's why you cook the beans, because you're going to make stuff with the beans. Okay. You're not just going to eat a pot of beans every day, plain beans from the pot, or you could do that. But I think you get tired of that. So that's why we have all these recipes. So by day two, you can take those beans and you can do something different with them. Like that would be a time where you might make a bean dip, and it could be any bean. You can take your beans, put them in the food processor, add something and make it into a dip and eat it cold or eat it on a potato. And then you've got like a bean dip. You can also take any bean and mash it up. Like take your bean in the bean liquid, put it in a skillet and take a potato masher and mash it up and cook it. And then use it as a filling for a taco. You can put whole beans in a taco too, but mashed beans are kind of good. You can put them on a flat tortilla and make like a tostada with lettuce and tomatoes and onions and plant-based homemade cashew cheese or nutritional yeast. And so you can make like a Tex-Mex tostada, enchilada, whatever you like. So that's another use after second or third day. And then, by the fourth day, you can say, I think I'm going to make a chili or a soup. I mean, even in the summertime, chili is something you can make. We're plant-based, so we eat stuff like that. I mean, we're not eating steaks, so what are we going to eat? Well, chili tastes really good all year round to me, so I don't see anything wrong with, cutting up some vegetables and beans and putting some vegetable broth in there and some chili powder and making a quick chili. And the nice thing about veggie chili is it doesn't have to cook forever. It cooks pretty fast. And then you could eat that with a grain or some cornbread or just like a bowl of soup. So you can definitely, use your beans in all these different ways. And you have to also think about the quantity. So the quantity of beans, a pound of beans, and a pound is this bag of beans here. A pound of beans makes 6 cups of cooked beans, 6 full cups. So that's 12 servings of beans. So if you're somebody who, is living alone, your 12 servings of beans, that's a lot of beans for one person to eat in about 4 to 5 days, because I don't keep things in the refrigerator longer than 5 days is the maximum for me. 4 days is more like it for me. I usually get tired of them by day 4 and freeze them. So if you're a person alone, you can make half a bag of beans. You don't have to make a whole pound. You can make 8 ounces, but it's going to take you longer to use all your beans if you make 8 ounces. And in the Rancho Gordo vegetarian book, they even tell you how to make it if you're only making 8 ounces. They even have instructions for that. They said you could use half a pound and 4 to 6 cups of water using half a pound of beans. And so, they've even got that in their instructions. So you don't have to use a whole pound of beans. You can use half a pound at a time. I tend to make a whole pound because, I know I'm going to use them all. So, but remember, 6 cups. So if it's 2 people, that's about right. But you got to use those beans in about 4 to 5 days. And you might get tired of them. Like I'm going to have these Mayocoba beans tonight. So that means I've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I've got 4 days of white beans. So what am I going to do with all these white beans over the next 4 days? I have to start thinking, how am I going to use all these beans? Am I going to make bean dip? Yeah, white bean makes really good bean dip. I'll have them plain tomorrow for dinner. I'll have white bean dip. Then maybe I'll make some kind of soup, or I'll look at my recipes. So all my recipes, and I even went through and listed them all, and I'll put these in the show notes. I have these documents already written up. In my recipes for beans, I have a whole page of recipes on YouTube. I have baked beans. Okay, white beans would make really good baked beans. Just put some barbecue sauce, low sugar, no oil, barbecue sauce and mustard in a baking dish and add the white beans and bake them in the oven. Delicious baked beans. You can make a burrito bowl with any kind of beans, even white beans. You can take any kind of grain and guacamole and beans and put in some steamed vegetables and make whatever kind of grain bowl or burrito bowl you want. So I have tons of bean recipes. If you go to my YouTube channel and just search, Julia Dunaway bean recipes, all of these will come up. They'll all be like all together. My favorite ones, I've even listed my top 12, and this is going to be in the document in the show notes on this video and the recording. Things like award-winning nachos. So you can take any kind of bean, like a pinto bean, a black bean, a red bean, and make nachos. And the whole recipe and video is in there. Then there is the everyday black bean burger. Just reading the comments. Black bean burgers are so easy to make. My everyday black bean burger is a newer recipe, and it's a really good one. It uses some black beans, some grains, some I think some breadcrumbs, onions, and different spices, and it holds together really nicely. Oh, some walnuts, I think. Holds together nicely, and it makes a great burger. That's one thing my husband will eat anytime. He loves bean burgers. Another recipe, My Best Hummus, and that was like this, but I think that one has roasted garlic. Another recipe I have on my YouTube channel is called Chipotle at Home. And you know, the Chipotle restaurant is very popular where you get, beans, grains like brown rice, beans, and then they have all these toppings and grilled vegetables and corn, salsa, guacamole, tomatoes, and all this stuff. Well, everything is drenched in oil except for the raw vegetables, basically. So I quit eating there a long time ago because I realized that back when I was trying to lose weight and could never get my weight off is because of things like Chipotle, because the food is not healthy, even though, they market it as, oh, it's supposed to be so good, but it's drenched in oil. So my YouTube video is Chipotle at Home, and it has all the components you get at Chipotle, but without the oil. So try that sometime. And, I won't read this whole list. One of the things in my list of all my all-time favorite recipes is red lentil soup. And this is something that I froze a while back, and I'll make a big batch of red lentil soup and freeze a few. So on a night, maybe like tonight when I'm busy and didn't have time to cook something, I can just put this in another bowl. I'll put this in a bowl like this and put it in the microwave, or put it in a pot and, let it slow cook until it's done. So always have lentil soup or bean soup in the freezer. And that was one of my favorites. The mung bean egg, because that's really great in the morning to have something that tastes like reminds you of an egg sandwich. I love that. Tofu. So tofu counts as the bean group, tofu and tempeh, and I love tofu. I'm half Japanese. So I make a lot of tofu, and tofu, once it's cooked, I don't mind freezing it. I don't like to freeze it before it cooks, but I'll freeze it after. And then it tastes fine to me. But freezing tofu and then cooking it, I don't like the way that turns out. So I make a lot of tofu, like sesame ginger tofu bowl is one of my top 12 recipes. It's on my website. It's on my YouTube channel. I've got black-eyed peas with cornbread. That is a very popular video, and the recipes are all in the show notes. So just about anything that you can make it with beans instead of meat. So think of any recipe that you like, and then, make it with beans instead of chicken or beef or whatever, like anything from tacos to enchiladas to spaghetti sauce. You can put lentils in your spaghetti sauce and add that for protein. And then if you freeze your beans, and I have a couple of examples, I have pinto beans that are frozen, and my method is just to freeze them in half-cup servings in these little Ziploc bags after they're completely cooled. And then I label the Ziploc bag. I have borlotti beans that I made the other day, and I froze them because I ate as many as I could, and then I froze the rest because I had enough and my husband wasn't eating them. And then if you don't like Ziploc bags, you can get these. Costco had these at one time. They're like reusable bags, and I have black beans in here. And these black beans are great because if I want to make bean burgers, then I've already got some cooked black beans that are made from scratch from the Instant Pot recipe, and I can just pull these out. So I have a section in my freezer where I have, these beans are all kind of lined up, so I know exactly where they are, along with my edamame, and edamame still in the pods. And then I have another section where I have containers of soup that I've already made so that I can get bean soup, or I have tofu scramble or different things in the freezer. So I never really have to worry about, do I have anything to eat? Because like tonight, if I didn't have anything to eat, I could just go grab a bag of beans. Is there a specific way to cook lentils when adding them to pasta instead of ground beef? She freezes the cooked beans on a sheet pan and puts them in a container. That's good. That's a good idea. You can just cook the lentils like the package direction of cooking lentils just with water until they're soft and then add them to your sauce. That's one way to do it. And there's a bunch of recipes for lentil bolognese where you put the lentils in with the tomato sauce and cook them in the Instant Pot. I don't have any recipe right off the top of my head, but there's a bunch of them because that's a popular thing. So you could Google lentil bolognese and you'll find somebody's recipe. I don't think I have a recipe out on that. Perfect, thanks. So yeah, freeze your beans, make some desserts, or make black bean brownies, make a chickpea spread or a hummus dip, make some version of mung bean omelets. And I have them in the freezer in there. I don't have any out here, but they look just like eggs and they taste delicious. And make a sandwich. For breakfast, the mung bean egg thing is good. For breakfast, chickpeas can be added to your steel cut oats, like savory oatmeal. I found that was a really good way to get beans in, is to make savory oatmeal, which I have a really good recipe for savory steel cut oatmeal. And then just add a half a cup of chickpeas to that, cooked chickpeas, like the canned kind. And then it makes a really hearty breakfast. Let's see, I'll make a dressing with white beans too. Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. So white beans and hummus beans, hummus chickpeas, you can thin those down and make salad dressing. That's another good use of beans. But between canned beans, lentils, and also you can buy refried beans from Trader Joe's and other places, and you just have to make sure they don't have added oil. This is all organic. It does have salt, so it's a little on the salty side. But so, just to wrap things up, there are so many ways to eat beans. And I have, like I said, I have my documents I'll put in the show notes about how to eat more beans. But mainly the idea here is get comfortable cooking beans. Because if we're in this plant-based, whole food plant-based lifestyle where we're going to be eating beans 3 times a day forever, we're going to be eating tofu, tempeh, all kinds of beans, lentils, peas, mung beans, whatever. If we're going to just be living on beans, we need to get comfortable eating them and so to show you, you can't really see it. I'll bring it over to show you. See how I'm stirring it because I want to check to make sure the water is at a good level. And just in that short period of time, my water level has gone down. So there's not that much water in here. There's just barely a quarter of an inch. So at this point, I see that it's necessary because these beans are not even close to being done. And I don't even have to taste one to know because I can tell. It's not tender in any way. No, you don't want to eat beans at this level. So I'm going to put some of that hot water in here. And I'm actually going to put about an inch because I can tell these beans are absorbing a lot of water. And I don't want them to cook down and burn. Okay. Thank you so much, Julia. I never get tired of listening to your videos. Oh, thank you. It motivates me. Thank you, Anne Marie. But yeah, you don't want to burn your beans. Remember, I've done it before. So by forgetting about them or something. So if I'm home cooking beans, I set timers to check them like every 30 minutes. I'll set a timer on my watch to come check it in 30 minutes to make sure the water hasn't evaporated and all that. So, when you're cooking your beans, be sure and check them regularly. And then don't be in a hurry. Okay, because you'll think, well, it's been 2 hours, they should be done. Well, they taste almost done. Oh, they're done, but they're not done. And they're never going to taste good if they're not completely done. So be really patient and make sure your beans are done. Keep cooking them and cooking them. You'll know when they're done because they'll be soft and they'll have a really good smell. So what I'll do with these is when they're soft, completely soft, and to the point where I would say they're pretty much done, then I'll add my salt. Now, I know some of you don't use salt, so you don't have to, but I'll put a teaspoon of salt in a pound of beans. Question, sorry, came late. Why not cook in the Instant Pot? I missed the name of the book. Okay. I do put a teaspoon of salt in a pound of beans. You don't have to, but I like it. I put it in after they're completely soft. So then the last 15 to 20 minutes, cook your beans with the lid off. And that will then, that will make a really good bean broth. The evaporation of the whatever liquid is left, and make sure you have liquid. Like if your liquid is running really low, add a little bit more, because otherwise you're going to cook your beans dry and they'll burn. So that's what you do to season your beans, is you cook them uncovered the last few minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And then make sure you have enough liquid so you'll have a really good bean broth. And if you want to add other seasonings like, chili powder, pepper, paprika, whatever you like, garlic pepper, garlic powder, you can add that. I never do, because I think the beans taste good by themselves. I don't think they need all that. I'm kind of a purist, because the longer I've been eating the plant-based, no oil lifestyle, the more my taste buds appreciate the taste of simple food. In the beginning, I needed to put a lot more stuff on my food, but remember, we're going to serve our beans with chopped up peppers, onions, avocado, cilantro, serrano chili sauce, pickled jalapenos, salt and pepper. Make them taste good. And then by doing this, you'll love your beans. You'll think they're so delicious, and you won't think, oh, I'm on this plant-based diet, the food is so boring. No, you'll be looking forward to your food. Like I look forward to my food every day, because I make good food, but I take the time to make good tasting food. I collect really good spices. Where do I put my paprika? Like when I travel, I, try to collect some really good spices. Santa Fe, now Spain, everywhere I go, I'm looking for some kind of good spices. What makes Rancho Gordo beans so good? Variety, freshness. Okay, I will cover that in a minute. Okay, the book I used was called Rancho Gordo Vegetarian Cookbook, Volume 2, and there's a table in there on using the Instant Pot called Pressure Cooking Guide. So that's how you know how long to cook it in the Instant Pot. So you can cook it in the Instant Pot. It's okay. I'm cooking it on the stove because this is the preferred Rancho Gordo method for cooking their beans. They always talk about they taste best if they cook low and slow on the stovetop. So that's why I'm doing it their way, because it really does taste better. What makes Rancho Gordo beans so good? Because the Rancho Gordo beans are fresher. Like they have agreements with small farms in Mexico, in America, and different places. And small farmers grow their beans, and they pick them and dry them, and they, Rancho Gordo packages them and sells a lot of beans. In fact, their beans are so popular, I think they use them in French Laundry and all kinds of famous restaurants. And the Bean Club, which I belong to, it took me about a year to get into this bean club, where every 3 months you get a box of beans. You can buy their beans on the website, but if you're in the bean club, you get unusual beans and new releases and whatever. It's kind of exclusive, but you don't really need to belong to it to get their beans. So the beans are fresh. They taste really good. They make your recipes taste super good. They don't really need any special seasonings because they're so fresh. So if you compared, grocery store beans, which I have in the past, I've used grocery store beans and thought they were awful because they took forever and they never cooked all the way till they were soft. And then I started cooking the Rancho Gordo beans, and they cooked so well. They were buttery, soft, good flavor, didn't require a lot of seasoning. I was sold. So then I was like, okay, I love them. But I'm not a snob, and I don't mind taking these canned beans and making some kind of bean burger with them, or just taking these canned beans, rinsing them off, or just draining them and putting them on top of a salad. I think they taste great. I don't really mind these at all. So you don't have to cook a lot of stuff. You can, just use canned beans, cook a pot of beans on the weekend for fun. You know how a lot of people, for fun, they used to grill and barbecue and make a lot of baked goods and different things for their hobby. Well, when you're a plant-based, healthy eater trying to eat whole foods, things like, I grow vegetables and I make slow cooking beans and I make, Japanese food and I make all kinds of recipes. And that's what I do. I make recipes that use whole foods that taste really good to me. And I have plenty of food around and I bring it to my friends. Like, if somebody is going through a tough time, I'll make them a recipe and take it to them, or, I'll send stuff to people. Please spell the name of the bean you are cooking. The bean I'm cooking is called, I have the package right here, Mayocoba, Mayocoba, Mayocoba. And it says it's a classic creamy bean with a thin skin, mild enough to soak up all the flavors of the cooking pot. So I think this will be a really good baked bean. And I have a baked bean recipe on my YouTube channel. But for baked bean, all you have to do is put some plant-based barbecue sauce, a little mustard, a little maple syrup or date syrup, some onions, and whatever, chili powder, smoked paprika, garlic pepper, mix it up, bake it in the oven. That's it. Baked beans. Don't have to get fancy. Don't have to have a specific recipe. Let's see. I'm going to sign off here pretty soon. Are there any other questions, comments? Anyway, I hope that you have some ideas about eating more beans. And I will put my documents in the show notes with how to eat more beans and a list of all my bean recipes on YouTube. And also, I didn't even mention this, but I have Zoom classes. So I have about 60 Zoom classes on my website, chef-julia.com. And in those classes, I have about 5 bean classes. One is called My Best Tofu Recipes. And I love that class because there's a lot of really good tofu recipes in that class. Plant-based basics, where I talk about making beans. The Mediterranean bowl, where we use things like make falafel with beans and make, different kind of beans in there. I have a class called My Best Beans, which is several bean recipes. Casseroles, which makes a Santa Fe beans and rice dish that everybody loves. And the best plant-based bean recipes of 2021 is also in there. So if you go to my website and look at Zoom classes under the shop section, there'll be all these classes that have bean recipes, and that will be in the show notes too. So if you want to buy a class of mine, feel free to do that, get a bean class. But you can get all this stuff for free on my YouTube channel. Great content. You have re-inspired me. Oh, thank you. So yeah, the most important thing I can leave you with is, for 4 years, I started out, I was 30 pounds heavier or more, actually. And I started eating beans, grains, vegetables, and fruit, basically. Lost all my weight. I've kept it off. And the way I've done it is following the daily dozen, eating the beans. I don't always eat 3 servings a day. A lot of times it's more like 2. But I'm okay with that because I'm healthy. Look at me. I'm I'm not wasting away. I get plenty of protein. And so, I do the best I can. But the more you can have spreads, dips, all good ideas to get through the 21-day challenge. Yes, thank you. So yeah, eat the beans. Learn how to make them. Get good at it. Buy a variety of them. Collect recipes. I have a bean notebook in my kitchen back there. I have like a binder, old school. Remember, I'm old, so I have old school stuff. I have a binder with all my favorite Rancho Gordo recipes. You look so young and vibrant. Thank you for meat and beans. So, but I have a whole notebook full of bean recipes, everything from chili to black-eyed peas and cornbread and, every kind of bean recipe you can think of. I've got it in one binder. So I don't really have to worry. If I want to make beans, I just grab my binder and I look through it for inspiration. Can you explain, please, how to get the show notes? Okay, when I'm going to put this in my YouTube channel, and it's going to be called How to Eat More Beans. It'll probably take me until tomorrow because I have to download it and then put it on my YouTube channel. I'll make it public. If you go to the YouTube channel at the top, under the person's name, there will always be a little thing that says more. And when you click on more, it will show all the document, the show notes. It will have all the recipes, links to find the person and whatever. And I'll put all these notes there, and you can copy and paste them into your own document. You can, copy and paste them onto your iPhone notes, or you can make a document. So it's pretty easy to use that. If I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Because remember, I'm probably your grandmother's age, a little bit off topic, but do you have any recommendations? Let me move this up so I can read it easier. Do you have any recommendations of how to keep track of recipes? I'm trying to do more meal planning calendar. Recipes are a lot online, trying to organize things. Well, like I said, I tend to keep things in binders, because that's how and then I also have a bunch of documents on my computer. So I have all kinds of folders, like I have a MacBook Pro. And so in my documents, I have folders of bean recipes and, plant-based cookies. And so I have all these folders on my computer of recipes. So if I find a recipe, I save it on my computer. If I find a recipe that I really love, and I know I'm going to make it, I might print it out, because remember, I'm kind of old school. So I print stuff out. Like, people tease old people about printing stuff out, but I print stuff out sometimes. And if I print something out, then I'll put it in the binder, and I'll have that to look at. So remember, I've been doing cooking classes for the last several years. So I've had to organize them like that. So, I just figure out a way to do it. But, a file folder, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. A file folder, a binder, a document in your computer, and then I organize all those things as I go. And I've actually written a new ebook called the 7-Day Meal Plan. And my daughter is the one who puts them together for me, my 33-year-old daughter. And she's working on it, but she works full time, so she has limited time. So as soon as she gets it done, I'll release that. And it has a lot of good tips and ideas about how to stick with the daily dozen and 21-day challenge. So, Barb says, I use a free app called Copy Me, and that I use to upload recipes I find online. Oh, that's a good idea. See, I don't know about that. So Copy Me. And I apologize for this glare. I'm sorry about my room. I need to get a new camera, but at least my internet was stable. So that's a positive. And I will be doing my next class is in July. It's on July the 13th, I believe. It's called Breakfast in Santa Fe. So I am excited about that class because I went to Santa Fe last year and we had such good food, and I love the Santa Fe lifestyle and the chilies and the food. And I'm going to do a breakfast in Santa Fe class July the 13th, and I'll be posting information about that. And my classes are still $20. I didn't go up on the price. And also, it's cooking away, it's doing so well. Also, I'm going to be on Kathy Hester's show on Sunday. So Kathy Hester released a new ebook. It comes out tomorrow. It's called the Whole Food Plant-Based Ninja Creamy Book 2, second edition. And I'm one of her affiliates, meaning, if you buy it through me, I get a small percentage or small fee, which is great, but because of that, one of my recipes is in the book too. So I have a hippie banana bread nice cream is in her new book. So she wants me to come on her show, and I'll be on her show on Sunday at 2:00 Eastern time. So if I'm not mistaken, the Paprika app has a version. Okay, yeah, Paprika app. So please watch me on the Kathy Hester show on YouTube, and I will be making some ice cream. I've got the new deluxe creamy, and I'm making it's called a cremachino. So I've taken some plant-based coffee, decaffeinated, made from brown rice, and I've made a coffee with almond milk, and I'm freezing that. And then I'm going to put more liquid on it and make it in the cremacino setting. So it's going to be like a Starbucks Frappuccino, but decaffeinated, no sugar, no weird stuff. So we'll see how that goes. So watch me on Sunday. I'm Kathy Hester. And I'm going to go ahead and end this. I've gone way over. So I hope you enjoyed the How to Eat More Beans Zoom class. And I hope you make something, make the brownies. Now I can let my husband eat all he wants. And, make some hummus, make a pot of beans, and I'll post a picture of them when they're all ready so you can see how they turned out. And just get cooking. Cook some good food and enjoy your food. Thank you very much. Oh, thanks everybody. Yeah, make some of this food and let me know how it turns out. Post it on the, if you're in my support group or on Facebook. If you're not in my support group, I have a support group on Facebook called Chef Julia Support Group. It's free. Everything on it is free. It's just a place where I post what I eat every day and recipes and information about stuff that I'm doing. And my only goal in the support group is I'm trying to help people adopt a plant-based way of eating and stick with it. That's it. And I do these 21-day challenges. I just saw a pretty bird fly by. If you could see where I'm looking, this is my backyard. And so I'm watching all the wildlife out the window. So it's kind of distracting because the whole room is surrounded by windows. And so if I see something like, I saw a cat, we don't have a cat. I got in the backyard and there's a cardinal and there's a squirrel and, it's kind of distracting. But, just join the support group. You have to request to join it and put a personal reason about why you want to be in the support group, and then you can get in. I let everybody in unless it looks like a business or something. So I'll see everybody soon, and I will post all this and get it to YouTube tomorrow as soon as I can. Okay, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and end this, and I don't know how many people attended, but I do appreciate you. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.